In this section of Unit 1, we are going to explore the stages of production and how a media project moves from an idea to a tangible product. Now, there are 3 stages of production. And the first stage is the pre-production stage, and this is the planning stage. This includes all forms of planning that take place prior to an actual production. I can't emphasize enough how this is the most important stage in the production process. If you do not plan properly, you're going to end up wasting time, you're going to end up wasting money, and it's going to be a very painful process. I have many students that will attest to that. So the pre-production stage, it's not the most enjoyable stage. There's nothing sexy about it. There's no lighting and equipment. It's sitting down, doing research, writing, figuring out, shooting schedules. But it really does pay off in the long run. The second stage is the production stage, and that is the recording stage. And here's where you record all aspects of sound and image. This also includes the setup and rehearsal for recording. Lastly, you have post-production, and that is the editing stage. And that's the last stage where all recorded sound and images are combined together into a final product. Also included in post-production is the distribution to the audience. Let's start by taking a closer look at pre-production. And again, this is all the preparation for the actual production. Producers are involved in the stage, along with the writers. The director is involved, along with the art director, if there is one. Part of where you want to start in your planning is by figuring out what you're supposed to be producing, by researching. You want to know what your topic is. So you have to figure out what the purpose of the video is, what your goals are. You might want to check out what similar programs have done, different genres. You need to know who your target audience is and how you can best reach them. So we're going to be doing this through a needs analysis next week. Pre-production also includes the writing. So you want to do the content outline, which is organizing all your research, and coming up with a treatment before you go and you write out the script and you do all the rewrites. The treatment is basically saying, here's my idea of what the script's going to look like. You need to figure out a budget for what above-the-line costs would be. Above the line include all the personnel, usually in pre-production and anyone who's supervising, so the writers, producers, directors, talent. Below the line costs are personnel involved in the production and post-production, and any equipment you're going to be using, maybe even sets, wardrobe, props, transportation, and catering costs. So figuring out how much money you actually have available. In pre-production, you want to have everything scheduled. So you will be developing a production schedule to keep everybody on task. How many days are you going to be shooting? You also want to figure out what locations you'll be shooting at, and see if you need to get any permits or insurance or clearance or even release forms at that matter. You want to hire a staff, a production staff. Who is your crew going to be? During pre-production, doesn't end yet. You have to purchase or rent any of the equipment. Maybe you have to purchase sets or wardrobe, whatever you're going to need. And the last thing, finally the last thing, is looking at all of your legal issues or ethical concerns. Is there anything that's going to become a problem later on? Again, the most important thing to remember is that planning saves time and money. So spend a lot of time in pre-production. The second stage is the production stage, and this is where all aspects of sound and image recording take place, again, including setup and rehearsal. The people that are involved in this stage include your producers, your director, the talent, and remember I said the talent before is anyone you see or hear. It doesn't mean they necessarily have any. It'll be your technical crews and your non-technical crews. So you start off with casting your talent and holding rehearsals. Then your production schedule gets underway. And in one particular day, you might have a crew call, and that's when All the different production members are expected to be there. So if your crew call is 8, that doesn't mean people start showing up at 8. It means they have to be there ready to go at 8. Shortly after a crew call, you have a technical meeting, and that's when you meet with the major crew members to discuss what's going to happen that day in the shoot. The setup is going on, so you might set the floor according to a lighting plot, a floor plan. Where are all the props supposed to be? Are the cameras in the right place? Once everything's set up, the crew usually does a run through, which is like a rehearsal, but also with the technical crew. So the talent will go through their motions, but the camera operators and the people with the audio will make sure that they know what's going on. So they might have to change the way the talent's doing something, depending on the technical issues they run into. After all of that, you finally get to tape it. Get to record the real thing. They may do some spill afterwards, which is reshooting any errors, so they can edit them in post-production. And the last thing is the most important part of the day. It's striking the set, clearing the studio, cleaning up. Again, the most important thing to remember in this stage is that the more organized you have been, the less painful the stage will be. The final stage of production is post-production, and this is when you edit all of the recorded images and sound. So you go through everything in offline editing, which is where you view the footage, you log the footage. In other words, you sit there and you make an index of every single thing that's on that tape. And out of there, you create an edit decision list. Which clips are you going to actually keep? Which are the good takes? And you may also make a rough edit in offline editing. Once you are pretty comfortable with the footage you have and that you have enough, you move on to online editing. And that's when you enter the editing suite and you edit the final version. That includes all the graphics, the titles, the special effects, maybe have voiceover, music, whatever. This is where you put all the bells and whistles into the final product. After you finish the editing and it's good to go, this is where you're going to make any copies that you need. You're going to do your duplication and you're going to distribute it. Maybe it's going out on air, or maybe it's going to be posted to the web, wherever it needs to be to reach your audience. That's where you need to get it. Most important thing to remember is that you can't always fix it in post. A lot of times people will make mistakes while they're shooting in production, and they'll be in a rush and they'll be like, oh, don't worry about it. We can fix it when we're editing. Things aren't always easy to fix in editing. I know they have a lot of really cool software out there that, will take certain sounds out. It's much easier to record it properly than to try to fix it later. And most of the time, you can't even fix it properly. You have to go through a bunch of different methods, and they're usually time-consuming, which again is going to cost you money. So get it right the first time. You can't always fix it once you're in post-production. So those are the 3 basic steps of production. You have the pre-production stage, production stage, and finally the post-production stage. We'll be going through each one of those stages in this course. But keep in mind, the most important step is pre-production.